I have to perform, right?
Yes.
All right, so thank you for having me, first of all. And I think a few of you saw me earlier this morning. I found out that I've been up here twice today. Once on video with my testimonial, and then of course here live. I wish I had seen it, by the way. That would have been cool. So remember when real estate lead generation felt like fishing in an ocean with like a broken rod, right? I'm out there and I don't know, like there's a line in and I don't know what I'm doing, right? I can't reel anything in. I'm just kind of out here floating along. For us, it was like that always. We have been in PPC lead generation for probably over a decade and are the proud owners of 600,000 leads. And I tell you that because what I'm sharing with you today is going to be whether you have a solo agent, if you're a solo agent, or if you have 1,000 agents, right? And whether you have 100 leads or 1,000,000 leads, these are actionable things that we did to bring it down into smaller chunks and work through the database in a way that increased our closing rate and did a lot for us. So prior to Ylopo, like I said, we had no idea what we were doing. It was like we were just throwing darts at a wall, right? And there was just no bullseye. We were just all over the place. The agents were tired, right? We kept telling them more leads are, we're buying more leads, we're doing more things, you have plenty of leads, and giving them like a 13-day plan, and that was it. And then we met with Gabe and Ryan and G in Portland, and as they were talking, I was like, this is the answer, right? This is what we've been looking for so long. So I've been with United Home Group for about 6 years. We have 315 agents across 127 cities. So all of this data lived in 175 separate logins. I had to pay a team of people just to log in and look. We had no visibility, right? So that's where Follow Up Boss really came in, because we could see every bit of our data and what we hadn't been doing. We didn't really have a lead flow problem. We had a drowning and a lot of unorganized chaos problem. So basically, our lead, like we dumped everything into Follow Up Boss, right? I'm an all-in person. You can probably tell by like the love of EDM and the jumping out of planes. It's a thing. Like we're going all in. So I told Ryan, I'm like, just transfer the whole thing. And he's like, I don't know if you want to do this. And I said, yeah, do it. I ended up telling my team it looked like my teenager's bedroom. Right? There's just stuff everywhere. There's no organization. It's mass chaos. I have no idea what's happening. I have a lot of names. There was just we had, like I said, the 13-day plan. Isn't that enough? We're going to throw them on this plan, and if they don't convert, we're going to follow up someday, and it's going to be great. It led to a ridiculously low conversion rate, a ton of wasted time for our staff and our agents. And agents are burned out, and agents are already burned out. They don't need more, just keep calling, just keep putting them on this and not having results. The light bulb moment for me was when I was looking and I said, okay, we have these 127 markets. Let's start treating this like their own individual small team. So we created multiple ponds in these markets. And so we have hundreds and hundreds of ponds. We have ponds for retargeting, which we'll get into. We have ponds that we're utilizing some of the Maverick stuff for. We have ponds for new leads. We have a lot of ponds. And what we did is we pared down the amount of data in each pond, and then we put less agents into it. So if I have 20 agents in Phoenix, 5 live in this pond, 5 live over in this pond, and they actually gamify them together, which I'm going to get into. So we took it from massive, massive data with no real plan to a lot of smaller data sets that we could change agents in and out of. So when I said, it doesn't really matter the number of agents or the number of leads, you can do this no matter your size, right? You can even do separate ponds if you're a solo agent and do the same exact thing. So we did city-based, like I said. The other thing for us is that, if you're in Atlanta, right? That could be a 3-hour radius depending on where you are. So we had like all of our data dumped into Atlanta. Well, that doesn't work, right? Because the agents in north aren't driving south. East is not driving west, it's not happening. So we went and did that. Basically, how we started, we ended with like 70 ponds. Right now we have more than that, but we had 70 very, very clear ponds that we were working in. And the agents only had view to those ponds. The pod structure is basically what we went to, right? So if you're over here, you're there. The other thing that we did was performance-based. So part of the gamifying, which I'll get to, is that you need competition. If agents aren't competing, they're in a different pond entirely. Right? So the agents that are not doing their follow-ups, aren't following the system, go to a different pond and sometimes earn their way out entirely. So I was actually talking to Ylopo this morning, and they're like, you're really good at that. You just shut them off, right? And we did that too. Ylopo, to me, gave us, we've never had the ability to, and we'll get into the database reset, but we've never had the ability to actually revamp some of the older stuff. So we're going to talk a lot about that too. And then we have agents that were really, really hesitant, right? They've been on the same system 8 years. They're like, you're crazy. I am not changing. This is working for me. I am a blank company user, and it's working, and I'm not changing. So we took our toughest converters first. They were also our highest performing. I talked to each of them and told them I was coming here, and they wanted me to also say that they've never been happier to be in a system like this, right? They were super, super doubtful at first. Their conversion is actually up individually. Each of them is over 13% right now, over what they were. So this is just an image of early on this is like before all of our data was in. So that's a total of the database at the time, and then that's an idea of the pond structure, and that's just in like 5 or 6 different cities. So you can just kind of see what we did there. So it brings it down, right? So if I'm a leader in this area, I'm clicking on that pond and only seeing those 3,000 leads, or those 4,000 leads, or those 1,000 leads. Same thing with the agents. So now gamifying. Our big finding is that agents who compete together succeed together. And a lot of the time, I think that we just get so into the lead generation process that we're like lead, 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 and we forget that salespeople are competitive, right? It's like, here, go do this, and they're kind of on an island doing their lead gen. The second we gave them that pond visibility, though, something really, really changed. They were calling each other, and they'd be like, oh, I love that text message you sent. Do you have more of those, right? Or, I can't believe you got that deal. I worked that thing and never got them to answer, right? Like a lot of that started to happen. That was interesting to coach through in the beginning. But basically, what we did is we created a lead follow-up competition. So we started to see the trading, right? And they would start to see, you know, that Tim in Athens is really, really great at expireds. Or they would start to see that he's doing something with the AI text and voice as it interacts that's getting him more live phone calls and more live transfers, right? So that started happening. The big thing for us is that we utilize the leaderboard system and follow-up boss hugely. Every single week on our development calls, we highlight the winners, right? So who had the most phone calls, who had the most conversations, text messages, all of those things. That was step 1. Step 2 was weekly and monthly challenges that led to meaningful reward. We used to do rewards, and it wasn't tied to anything that they really wanted, and so they wouldn't compete. And I was like, why aren't they competing? They should want this. They didn't. So we went and did a poll of what would be the thing that they would want, right, inside of winning a competition. We basically are looking at number of contacts that we run contests around consistently, number of conversions, number of action plans running, right, and how they're interacting with them. So not just turning on an action plan, but actually working within the action plan and utilizing it. Number of follow-ups from AI voice and text. So how many handoffs did they get? How much did they interact with that call? We actually just also are starting to implement Maverick. So people who had the highest scores on their phone calls. And then the number of retargeted connections made. So I'll get into that in a minute. So when we started doing that, we still utilized our 13-day plan that we've always used. We had a 35% increase in follow-up after the fact, which is pretty much unheard of, right? we've had a 6% increase in conversion to closing. That's massive in an organization that size, right? So if you looked at this from the perspective of a smaller organization, you could that could be that 30% number. And now they have fun with it. Every call we're celebrating. Every call we're talking about wins. Every call we're talking about, oh, I got this one done. We had a guy the other day that said, I worked that lead forever and ever. They never picked up the phone. I can't believe you got it done. And then they had a conversation and ended up like trading leads. It was, so we get on calls and have that too, and it's more celebrated and it's a lot more fun. The next thing that we did was revitalizing our aged leads. I hate the term old leads. If I start, it'll take me down a whole rabbit hole on this stage because I hear it all the time, right? I need more new leads. I need more new leads. No, right? I just had the conversation with an agent in North Carolina. She said, I need more new leads. I said, you do not need more leads. What you need is to follow the follow-up systems and start jumping into the AI pond because that is working and these people are buying. So what we know is that dead leads, they're really just hibernating. We know that if we do not get contact in the first 13 days, that typically we're 9 to 18 months before we have the opportunity to again. And when you tell someone that, they're like, 18 months? Well, I have a whole couple 100,000 that are older than 18 months, right? Ylopo has really, really figured out how to change how this works. Most real estate lead generation, you'd have them, you do your 13-day plan, you kind of drip on them occasionally sometimes. Somebody might pick up a phone randomly in a year and dial it once, but that was really it. So we're gonna talk a little bit about database reset and what that has done for our team. So we had over 350,000 aged leads. When I say age, that's anywhere from 9 months to 8 years. And the astonishing number, and I'm putting it here because it was probably one of the biggest, I'm going to use the word failures for us, was that all of that data had not been followed up. And if you own a company and you run a company and you know that your average lead cost at the time was $10 a lead and there's 350,000 of them, $3.5 million hits pretty hard. Right, like it actually gave me a physical reaction. I had to leave the room. It was, I was like, you know what, we're coming back tomorrow. We're not doing this today, right? There is no such thing as a dead lead. And with the database reset product, we were able to actually go in and determine who we could flip into conversation. And so now we have these leads just igniting. It's crazy. You saw my testimonial, that's what this is. So with the AI voice and text, that has been huge. What we do is, and we'll get into how we target it, but the success stories. So we did a $10 million buy sell in Northern California from this. It was 49 months old. Best deal that agent, he's like, I don't even think I can sell another house. It's just gonna seem so boring. Right? 1.2 million in Atlanta that was 18 months old. A couple here, 4.8 million, it was a multifamily and a multi-land deal in Nashville, and now they're selling it all and doubling down and buying about 12 million worth. And it just keeps going. There's more and more. So as soon as we utilized this on all of this aged data, this started to happen. And so if you're in the audience and you're wondering, how do I work this stuff, you've got to talk to the team at Ylopo because they are onto something that is absolutely game-changing, I think, for the industry and definitely for your business. How did we know, like with aged leads, you have to identify what is going to respond or who is going to respond. So the first thing that we did is we took all the data and we got them into the List Hub feed, right? So they're getting listing alerts and we're watching who's looking. Are you looking at it 3 times or more? We're going to put them in that pond, right, for the AI voice and text. If they're doing that too, our callers are going to start calling at the same time, and we're reactivating our 13-day plan. I cannot tell you the number of times the agents have said, oh, well, they looked, but they're not interested. I promise you, they could go to Realtor.com, they could go to Zillow. They actually went to a portal that they have to log into to look. 3 times, 18 in the case of one guy this morning. I got the alert, it was like 18. Sent it to the agent. He's just looking. Like, no, he didn't look at this 18 times because he's not interested, right? And so that gives you that coaching opportunity too. And I'm like, also maybe just don't say we know you looked 18 times. It's a little weird. The next thing is email, text, and response rate. So we're watching in Follow Up Boss. Are they opening our emails? Are they looking at our text messages? Are they reading them? If that's the case, they're going into those ponds. They're getting the 13-day plan, right? Because if there's activity, there's something there at least. And then again, leads that do the above, we put them in there. And I'll tell you, when it first happened, Ryan told me, he's like, look, the calls are going to start really flowing. You have to get the agents ready. We did. And I think the first day in Phoenix, there were like 42 live transfers. It slowed down after that. You saw the testimonials in the 300s. But ultimately, that also created a ton of competition, right? Because they believed, again, that these leads were good. And they were diving for the phone, like it's on the round robin. And they were calling back the number if they missed it and getting each other, which really made them angry. Because they knew they were the loser, right? So the thing about this is, it has completely changed. It helped with the gamification. It helped with reigniting kind of the passion in the agent because they just think old lead, I'm not calling. Now they actually want to convert that stuff. It's become a competition, right? We get on calls and they're like, I just put one under contract, 3,900 days old. Yeah, well, I have one at 42. Like, it's just a whole thing. So for us, this has been game changing. And when you own any level of data, I think it's really imperative that you work it. You paid a lot of money for it. And when you look at the cost of doing this versus acquiring more new data, it's a heck of a lot lower per conversion. I shared up here, if you want to take a picture, some of the messages that have high success with the dormant leads. And so a lot of it is very like, we are so sorry we haven't connected in so many days. On us, our bad, right? These have tended to work for us. I know that Barry and Ryan are doing a session after this that gets really more in depth. This is by no means a science. This is just some of the stuff that has worked for us to get some of this going. These were shared with me by my top converters in the database reset program. And this is what we're seeing the most response with so far. So the next thing is Maverick. So Maverick opened up a whole new world for us because I really think that Maverick there's nothing like it out there as far as what its capability is. Being able to hear our agents' conversations and coach to a specific one is a complete game changer. Could you record before? Sure. When you have agents at scale, it's really hard to do. They'll just go buy like a new phone and not get on the system, right? They'll be like, no. At first, they didn't like it. They were a little hesitant. We had to get some people back into using their FUB numbers. But overall, they really enjoy it now because my coaches can say, hey, let's pull up this call and listen to it together. When that happens, a whole different thing, you get a lot more confidence from the agent, right? Basically, we had a test group of agents. We've driven their conversion up over 16% just by having those conversations around their phone calls. We can help eliminate overuse of words, right? We can help if they're having a closing problem. We know if they're making plenty of phone calls and having a ton of conversation and going on no appointments. We've always known it. Now we know exactly what they're doing, and we can help tweak it. The coaches are able to pinpoint a ton of opportunity. And the other thing that I would say about it is the sales coach is amazing because if they know they've had a bad call, they can hop right into the AI sales coach. And they can also do that on the fly, like if they're just feeling like they need some help that day. Our ISA team has been able to have a way more streamlined process because they can actually set appointments and push notification to the agent. And my personal favorite is that I can nudge an agent and be like, hey, you have a lead you haven't touched, do you want it? Because I can take it and give it to someone who does, right? And that's like my personal favorite. I get in there and just do it. They're like, Marissa, we already have people doing it. I'm like, I'm doing it again. So gamification, competition, all of that wouldn't have been possible for us without Ylopo and without the relationship that we've built. I'm happy to answer any questions as far as what we've done. I put my number up there, so sometimes I answer right away, text is fastest. Sometimes I'm like Jimmy John's, like it's like bam. Other times you might wait a few hours. But overall, if you have any questions about what we've done, I'm happy to help and answer anything. Thank you.